Namaskar. And it's wonderful to be here after many years. And it's very overwhelming that I think it's for the first time in India at a presentation and a centenary celebration where everybody was seated before 5 o'clock. And I think this is for the first time I've experienced this. Of course, if you make a presentation in Oxford or Cambridge, even a physics professor will sit in the corridor on the ground and everybody is there before you go. In St. Stephen's College, in NID and many other institutions, when you go, like a director in search of actors, you have to literally call everybody, please come to a lecture. So it's wonderful that people of Chandigarh, because of respect for great MS Randhawa, unlike Professor Goswami, I did not know him so well, but I met him on many occasions. Was not a friend of mine, but I met him at IFX Gallery with Sardar Gurcharan Singh, the great potter. Sardar Gurcharan Singh, to whom everybody called Daddy Ji, I called him Papa Ji, and he loved me immensely more than his son Mini. And it was he who introduced me to Dr. Randhawa. Tall, handsome gentleman with rosy cheeks and very erect. What a wonderful man. You know, professor of art history and others do speak about various aspects of art and culture. And it's quite often said that artists did not speak through words. But I think the time also has come that we should share not kind of scholarship that Professor B.N. Goswami and others have. 60 years after independence, we still do not have the clear vision for art and culture of the country. Wonderful building sculptural architecture that Corbusier designed and built here. And say, for instance, I'm staying at the UT Guest House, also a nice building. But hungry walls, the corridors are empty. And likewise, all over the country, we had extraordinary traditional architecture. In northern India with stone, and in northeast of India on stilt because of floods and snakes and animals. And in Kerala and elsewhere, thatch houses, mud houses, which were cool in summer and warmer in winter. But something has seriously gone wrong. It's like when you talk of MS Randhawa in Chandigarh, if you talk to the younger people, they may not even know his name. If you talk of S.B. Palsikar in Bombay, nobody will know of him. If you talk of Dr. Bhava, the scientist in Bombay, who used to paint every day. He had a studio in his atomic energy establishment. And I remember I was 22 years old, and to a drawing show of mine, he comes and pats at the back. He said, Mr. Das, would you consider to come and see my work? I respect your drawings, over a glass of sherry. And I didn't know what was sherry. You know, and this was Morarji Bhai's Bombay state of Maharashtra and Gujarat together. Bombay was dry. But some of these stalwarts, the role models of our society, Hall Claassen of the Larsen & Toubro, J.R.D. Tata, Dr. Bhabha, and many other people like this, were all over the country, of course, from the turn of the century till 60s and early 70s. There were people who were role models. I remember C.C. Ramamurthy, who was the director of the National Museum in Delhi, a great scholar of Indian traditional art. He would sometimes phone me and say, I will come and see your painting. He will come, sit on the ground, cross-legged, and say, wow, what a beautiful red you have applied. Later on, there were people like Richard Bartholomew, S.A. Krishnan, Mr. Chatterjee in Calcutta, and many other critics, historians, used to visit our studios. Artists used to meet each other regularly, look at each other's work grow. Dancer, writer, poet, painter, musician, we used to meet and share, not formally, but visit each other's home, look at the work, the process of work growing. In last about 15 years or so, no artist visits any artist. Some of these critics are gone. We only meet in gallery openings and social events and parties. We used to say, I'm not ready for an exhibition yet, although you worked regularly. And today somebody going to an art school in first year or second year, ready and not embarrassed to hold an exhibition, ready to hold a show. Once a lady, a sophisticated lady in Delhi comes with a young man with a painting wrapped like a cake with ribbon and brought it to be gifted to me, saying that I should come and inaugurate this exhibition. And I told this lady, I said, you are killing this child. And he's not an artist, he's a student. And the old saying, overselling and overexposing can kill talents. But there are millions of boys and girls today, all over the country, are wanting to not only sell their commodity, they are themselves in the marketplace for sale, and they are not to be blamed. It's our society, it's our governance, it's our parents and educational institutions which have created that kind of a milieu in which these kids have been driven to do this. It's very alarming. I used to show often earlier. In last 10-15 years, believe me, without any, that I don't feel like exhibiting. For whom? For what purpose? But when somebody says, oh Jatin, lovely seeing you, are you still painting these days? Why? No, because you haven't held an exhibition, so how do you live? So people in general have two ideas, that you sell, you exhibit, you are working, and that's why it will culminate in an exhibition, and the other is that for selling you're holding the exhibition. So with times you also have to maybe exhibit so that they know that you're still living and working. So I had an exhibition in Calcutta after 20 years, and a show in Bombay after 11 years, and I'm planning to have a show in May after 9 years. Now somebody said, but why are you having a show in May? That's not the exhibition season. Because everybody has a show in winter, so you can dress up, you can drink well and socialize. Then I thought May is a good idea because there would be no exhibition. So all the limelight will be on me. Okay. Now, frankly, in Midway, as I am wanting to share my feelings, my thoughts, my ideas, my anguish, I also at the same time, every time, I tell myself, next time I'll not give a presentation or talk to public. The reason is because I feel whatever we discuss, it doesn't let a child say that I won't sleep tonight, but why am I painting? Why am I going to art school? What am I doing with my life? Then my triggering or my complaint or my anger would be meaningful. I'm from Mayurbhanj, the old princely state which merged with the Indian Union last. It was a very enlightened little princely state. And in my early childhood, I have seen folk art and tribal art and dance and music and theatre. We had playwrights, and we have a Jubilee library with rare numbered edition books which have been stolen by all the officers since. And the silver cutlery at the circuit house gone. And all the orchards around has been cut off. The trees have been chopped off, and housing colonies have come. Even in Chandigarh, when I visited yesterday, I've been observing there are a lot of dirt and filth, not enough plantation thereafter. Enough attention has not been given to signage. Of course, that's a problem of the whole country, because if you go to meet somebody in Bombay, you'd say, you turn at the right garbage dump, and the third garbage dump is my house. So we haven't. So in a great country, with such stalwarts in our mind's eye, mindscape, and what decadent people are we becoming? How degenerated, disgusting, you know. A young man in Asiad village passes by, and I know him visually, and I say, he says, hello uncle. So one day I caught hold of him, where are you rushing? He said, uncle, by next year I want to be a millionaire. And he's in standard 12. Many young artists when I meet, some of them who have bought 5 crore house, and one of them says, I want to learn from you. But they are doing computer generated photo transfer paintings, and the critic, the historian, the journalist, the gallery do not know it's photo transferred. There are 50% of Ara and Hussain and what do you call it, Souza, Jamini Roy, fakes are sold in galleries, and people don't know, because they don't look at the painting, because a lady comes from Bombay, Jatin, I want to come and see your painting. Next morning she says, your name is not on the list. So she doesn't come. So people are going around with names to buy work. And that's why 60s decadent clothings have stores all over the country, because you are buying names. You want to buy the perfume and the clothing and the painting, and ordinary European furniture sold in our country. What a decadent society. Murals and sculptures are broken down. Period buildings are broken down to put up skyscrapers, and in the society nobody is complaining or angry or stopping anybody from this distraction. Very, very sorry situation in the country. The Sir J.J. School of Art, where I studied, was one of the most beautifully designed art school in the world. 40-feet skylight, Burmatic flooring, 3 times larger Michelangelo replica, plaster replicas, and there were stalwarts who were teaching. And today, nobody even knows where the J.J. School of Art, where Kipling taught. And in Crawford Market, marble fountains and carvings were done by Kipling. So, as Dr. Goswami said, that we have short memory. We're not concerned about with pride and dignity about our architecture, about our environment, about our forests, about our artists. I remember in '64, I'm sorry, I'm rambling and at a tangent sharing with you. I remember about '64, there was a lady who sold her jewelry to buy a painting of mine. And I remember there was a young man who used to get 1,500 working in Max Factor, salary, that big salary, and he bought a painting of mine 800, without bargaining paid me 600-700 rupees every month. This kind of. And all these, Dr. Bhava and others, after a board meeting, will skip their lunch and go and see exhibitions. They'll go to a concert. I was in Bombay for 11 years. I've been in Delhi for almost 40 years. Those 11 years in Bombay were very, very special. Tell me who knows the name of a documentary filmmaker called Sukhdev. You know, Sukhdev was a great documentary filmmaker, friend of mine, who made India 67, Miles to Go, after the eclipse. He made a documentary on Bangladesh and India, you know, the war in 1971. Huh? Khilone, you know, addressed communal problems and, you know, in a poetic way. There was Pratap Sharma, there was Nissim Ezekiel, Geet Patel, Rudy von Leiden was a critic who made a collection of Ganjapa, took it away. And they were in every discipline. People used to work in advertising agency to earn money, but they wrote poetry and did plays in the evening. Their life was in the theatre, but they were doing a job as a retainership, like Eliot worked as a clerk. But today, artists are manufacturing whatever they produced yesterday. They're selling it this morning. They're ready for an exhibition. You know, in the lighter vein, why does acrylic medium is very good in India? Because it can be painted tonight, dried in the morning and sold in the afternoon. You know, which is a rubbish medium. I mean, every medium is very good, but it's soggy and it's not like oil. When you apply in oil or in tempera, watercolor, it stays. Whatever the color you, acrylic looks something and anyway, you know. So, what are we becoming? We used to have music concert by Mallikarjun Mansur, Kumar Kandhav at Rang Bhavan in Bombay, which will last till 4 in the morning. And you lasted the night with tea and biscuits, and by 8 o'clock you went to the art school and you worked. And today a lot of young people, so-called artists say, but Mr. Das, we need bread and butter. It's an ugly expression, like you ask somebody, how are you? And he says, she says, I'm very good. They've learned this stupid expression, I'm very good. So likewise, bread and butter. Everybody has learned the jargon. I need somebody to help me for my project in the research for my art center. And she says, what is my job profile and what is the package? So I say, no profile, it's all frontal, and there's no package. You know? So we are a phony society. We talk. One day, you know, I'm setting up this art center in Bhubaneswar, and I have already had 3 national documentary film festival on art. We're archiving. I mean, stupidly, as an artist, I'm not a bad artist, but I've taken up this art center and the Pankha project and documentary films. I'm killing myself, burning my candle on 3 ends. Anyway, I had Aduru Gopal Krishnan and 40 documentary and filmmakers from all over the country come every year in mid-December, and a journalist, electronic, what do you call it, TV journalist goes to Aduru Gopal Krishnan while his film is being shown, who has got Padma Bhushan, who has got Dada Saheb Phalke Award and celebrated filmmaker. He says, what do you do? She says, what do you do? So he said, I'm as a friend of Jatin, I'm here. In New Delhi, the city, the capital, and all these sophisticated young men and women journalists, somebody says, where can I meet Mrs. Jamini Roy? Because Jamini sounds like a lady. So he said, not today, maybe later. Kamala Devi Chattopadhyay, where can I meet her? So it's not short memory, we're only after money and name and position. A country, like he was reciting the poems in Urdu, or talking about Pahadi miniature, or Dr. Randhawa's interest, and likewise Karl Khandalawala and Mulk Raj Anand, and all these people. We might differ, but people had love and affection. People had interest and passion. You know, they were rasikas. We have no sahadharmi, we have no sahahriday. कोई तो गन्ने का रस नहीं पिया, रस आस्वादन क्या करेंगे? You know, to talk about nectar and the rasika and ras aswadan much later. But aajkal koi, you see, through the language to the interior landscape of a culture. Ab kisi bole panna, nobody knows what is panna. When I say I live in Bhaktawar Singh block in Asiad village, every Indian sophisticated man and woman say, what? It's not a tongue twister. Bhaktawar Singh block. Huh? So likewise, so panna, as I said, the kacha aam ka ras. We have in our country at least 500 varieties of cold drinks. We have 2,000 varieties of architecture and music and ragas and painting and sculpture. And you name any kind of pagadi or garment, and all these stupid designers sitting there copying the Western garment. You know? And I don't know what to do in this situation. We were discussing about the canteen or the cafeteria. Let's not go into aesthetics and, you know, in a much more sophisticated aesthetic fervor of things. But not a single university, school or college has a museum or a gallery or an archive or a cafeteria or an emporia. Jesus School of Art, when it was conceived, that was the first art school of the country, and Calcutta and Madras came into being during the colonial period. Painting, sculpture, craft, teachers training for art, architecture, applied art and printing technology. That was within one campus. So all these administrators and the great governors of our country, how, if there is a paradigm, why didn't they duplicate this kind of concept and polished it better? When many of our officers go abroad, when they come back, don't they see that all over the world, every university, college and school has a museum, has a gallery? Why can't this be a complex of auditorium, library, gallery, museum and archive and a cafeteria? Even the National Gallery Modern Art and the National Museum in New Delhi has a little cafeteria which is dirty and dirty glass, and we could have terracotta glasses, we could have hundreds of ceramic potters in our country, you could have that. So I'm talking of art and aesthetics and a kalatmak bodh in our day-to-day life, in our society, in our neighbor, on our roads, on our pavement. There are still many roads that I applied today have no pavement. और उसको एक महीना में मट्टी साफ करके पेमेंट हो सकता है, you know, and I think all of us included, we have to pull up our socks and we have to be involved. Say once in Andhra, in Hyderabad, somebody, a big officer said, we have allotted some funds for buying painting, I want to buy one of yours. I said, no, you don't buy one of mine. Buy 50 Andhra painters first. So let there be a collection of Punjab artists first. Has there been an exhibition in 60 years of all the Punjab artists living in Punjab, in India and abroad? You know, and so on. So how to, we don't blame the young people, how to get all of us connected with pride, with dignity, with self-esteem, for our fabric, for our fulkari, for our poetry, for our miniature, for our environment and so on. So the real problem is at home and in school. They are the only two problems, I think, for various things. Our schools are in terrible condition. There are many schools now in Delhi, the classrooms are air conditioned and every child has a laptop and the food comes from Taj Hotel. And there are schools where there isn't a room or there is a toilet for boys and girls. We live in this kind of disparity. We have filth everywhere in the country. So, kalatmak bodh kahan se aayega? Me as an artist, what nonsense I'm doing is for myself. If you don't like, you can tear it off. I can keep it in my studio and not exhibit. But a town planner and architect, what he does cannot be forgiven. Or a media person, what he is exposing people in their private spaces at home through television cannot be forgiven. Because you are really spoiling the minds with visual pollution and sound and everything. Every gallery in our country is overlit. They're like a sari shop. Recently, 2 weeks ago, the National Gallery Modern Art Wing has come into being. Mr. Ramanathan, a very bright young architect, was one of my students in SPA. He got the award. It's been sitting there for many years. Now the gallery has opened. And Sonia Gandhi and Mrs. Ambika Soni talked about state-of-art gallery. And Raghu Rai and me and a few others entered. There were tube lights in the gallery. Hundreds of tube lights. And the walls have colors. Very simple that in a gallery you should have no colors. And the light should not hit your eyes. And they were talking of the state-of-art gallery. When anybody is doing anything, especially in public domain, people could invite some architects, artists, thinkers, lawyer, historian and others to see, we are doing this project. It's for people, but let's review it. You know, and besides we have running down everybody, we don't help each other and we don't share. So returning back to what I was talking about homes and schools. There are hundreds of art competitions taking place in the country for children. And many corporate houses are giving television watches. So the parents and teachers are running morning till evening to this children art competition to get awards. I have been to quite a few children art competition with one condition, that there will be no award other than art material. And till standard 5 there will be no competition for children. You know, there is Aurobindo Ashram School, then there is Rishi Valley School and various other schools. You know, we talk of role model and we talk of, like I talked about JJ School of Art and elsewhere. You've got a beautiful College of Art and Architecture here with beautiful natural light. There was a very important architect who was not known in the 50s, is Bajpai in Bombay, who designed Jahangir Art Gallery and Madhuri Ben Desai's house. And he made natural light. So till 6 o'clock you would not need any light to see painting. And all of them have covered it up and painted it up by putting artificial light, and we are after air conditioning and the lights from Germany to light up our galleries. We have become somewhere very phony because we drink French wine and caviar now in India. Eat caviar, you know. So now Doshi, B.V. Doshi also designed the Hathi Singh Visual Arts Center in Ahmedabad. He also made natural light. Now, so in our schools and colleges and universities, we have no proper auditorium, no gallery, no museum, no archive. Whatever the museums, we have more than 100 museums in the country set up by the British. In 60 years, we have about 5 museums set up by the government and about 4 private museums in the country, the Kelkar Museum, and O.P. Jain, a trader, has set up a fantastic art center in Delhi, and IR in Kerala, and a few others like this. In 60 years after independence, we should have had 5,000 museums in the country, because most of the artifacts and objects in antiquity have gone in the last 300 years, stolen, pilfered, sold, whatever, and they're still going. I knew a French diplomat who took 20 large tin trunks of silver jewelry for his collection, and otherwise they're melted. The Kasa Bartans are melted, you know. So I like to request all of you in Punjab, take an oath that you will start some private collection and your heirloom. I mean, if you are planting in your own garden and looking after the antiquity of your own family itself is a great thing. But we're selling it off. All the miniatures, all the old furniture, everything, we're selling it off. Now, humanities subjects in universities, they're closing down department because everybody is studying IT and management. They're closing down. So people for geography, history, philosophy, sociology, art, etc., no, there are no takers because the government doesn't create jobs for that. Because it's, we have come to a level, we are just wanting jobs, a Maruti car, a microwave, a cellular phone, and vagara flat, bas. We don't hear that some young man say, I want to be a physicist, I want to be a scientist, I want to be an artist. I said, I am a painter, I want to be an artist. The word artist is a very big thing. Da Vinci was an artist. Ramkinkar Bej was an artist. Corbusier was an artist. We are still wanting to be an artist. You have to be an architect, you have to be a painter, a toy maker, and singer, everything, So, returning back to our role model of the family, role model of the society, role model in art, without naming some of our art. Then institutions, the professional institutions. Nobody is inviting anybody because he feels small if people come. So, concept of visiting faculty do not exist in our country. They are given 100 rupees for a lecture. There are friends of mine in Germany go to the department for 2-3 times and they get enough money to look after, pay for their rent, electricity, telephone and everything. So our education is faulty. We have not gone into that. Children clothes are with synthetic yarn. And everywhere else in the world that you cannot have children clothes with even 1% of synthetic. And so on. I draw with conte, French conte, and all the critics write I draw with charcoal. They don't know what is a conte. They don't know what a tempera is. They cannot distinguish between acrylic and oil. And today, there are at least 500 curators in our country. I don't know, I don't think they can even spell what is a curation. They are curators and they're becoming more important. And some young artists are producing catalogs for which you need 2 people to carry the catalog that size. Yeah. So the content is becoming unimportant. The frame is becoming very important. This is the kind of situation we live. Not that the Europeans and the Americans are more sensitive than us. It is just because we are having very faulty education system. We have no role models which will give us inspiration, impetus for us to look up to. Do you know in Dera Sahib in Dehradun, maybe 400-year-old beautiful fresco in the Gurdwara. And so on. There are fantastic in near Orissa, near Khajuraho, in that area. Beautiful facade where the lime plaster applied and then a terra red coating of a plaster, and then while the terra red is wet, you engrave on it so the white shows. And likewise, thousands of varieties of mural techniques in Rajasthan and elsewhere in South, and painting on cloth, the patwa, the patachitra, etc., and pad, the different stylistic rendering of sculptures and temple architecture, 5-storied underground step well, कोई देखेगा तो पागल हो जाएगा. And our children haven't gone because the parents have not taken them, but we know the streets of New York and London very well. All the names of French wine we know. But it's very sad. And our teachers also showing Picasso and Matisse to us. So our mind block is we have no artists, and it's all craft, because during the colonial period they made this division that these are craftsmen. Even now I have a catalogue, I have an exhibition, and the poor craftsman, he's a craftsman. Frankly, the traditional artists are much greater than many contemporary artists. They don't talk, they don't have catalogues, and they work. There was a workshop once Rajiv Sethi did in Orissa, in the southern part, in a tribal pocket. About 30 known artists of the contemporary artists went, and there were master craftsmen who were sitting there who used to draw, and they used to translate into an object. An Oriya lady tells me in Oriya that this drawing is very bad, I don't want to replicate it. So this is the kind of situation we are living in a great country with great heritage. We don't have to go anywhere for any paradigm, because this country's philosophy says, let's learn everything, then unlearn, then do manodharmi. Learn everything, then unlearn it completely, then do what your inner mind says. And I think fantastic concept, fantastic concept. Our traditional, in architecture colleges and art colleges, traditional art of our heritage is not taught properly. Where the contemporary artists, they have no idea how to apply, because the teachers don't know what color to apply on which surface. And the conservation of this painting. Because we have imbibed the American paradigm, the artist says, I painted 20 feet painting, if it falls apart tomorrow, it's the job of the restorer. But whereas, if I sell a painting at a high price, or whatever the price, and it's my dignity, I must know my medium, and that it should last longer. So people made handmade paper, they painted on it, they got earth colors, they ground it and strained it, and In Orissa, the ikat fabric, the weavers, you know what they do? Unlike the bandhani of Rajasthan where they tie the cloth, in Orissa, the 10-15-year-old child looks at a design and ties the thread. Yeah? Then they are dyed. Then the whole thread is opened up completely. Then the weave. This is extraordinary. The ikat of course, the ikat of China and Southeast Asia and Indonesia and India and Orissa and Gujarat, the pattern, the ikat. So in such a rich tradition that we have of Kerala murals and Ajanta murals and elsewhere, and Orcha and the temples and architecture and the stepwell and the music gharanas and food and clothing, you name anything. So if, most of the artists all over the world cook, and I also cook. So quite often people, so Jatin, are you making French food or Italian food? So our paradigms are becoming this. I say, no, it's à la carte Jatin. We sound French, no? So it's nicer. So aisa hai. Now, you go to an exhibition opening, everybody is talking. If you look from here, nobody is looking at the painting. And then you can quietly go through the corridor next to that LA, and you look at the painting and come back, because nobody is near the painting. And this is the situation. If you have a music concert, somebody will come and sit on the front row, pull a chair, make the noise while the music is on, get up and go and disturb the audience. And likewise, I am quoting thousands of situations and sense of whatever. But my request is that everybody sankalp kare that what Dr. Randhawa did and those kind of role models in mind, that we do something first in our own family and then in our environment. This is, you see, I have become Boy Scout. As I said, as an artist, there was no need for me to set up an art center. I have this Pankha collection for 26 years, and Sheila ji is thinking of making a National Fan Museum in Delhi, so we are working on it. but not taken a penny from anybody, nobody to help, and I'm begging everybody to come and help me on these projects. So every young kid says, how much money will you give me? So these days I ask, what is your expertise? Do you know what is accessioning? Do you know documentation? They said no, and so on. So let us also encourage people in different parts of your dwelling, and that if somebody has a collection, suppose I have a pankha collection, you get me a pankha, and you make a lock or a glass or a jewelry collection, I help you, and so on. So there could be thousands. And besides, how did the Guggenheim Museum and others came into being? Because they donated all their collection and the government gave them a tax exemption, you know. So one is a sense of aesthetics in our day-to-day life, in our society, in our towns and villages, and respecting the tradition and the rich heritage to imbibe for our, I mean, I don't have to copy, but I must study and imbibe it for the energy for my contemporary usage. And respect for our environment and how the homes and schools can be replenished with much more energy, and that's what mainly makes it. Because 99% of our kids do not speak their mother tongue. And when I talk of the language of not only words, the language of food, the language of communication, the language of art and music, karna suddhi nahi ho raha hai. They're not listening to very good music, so it's not necessary to know the ragas. It's not necessary to know whether it's a vermilion or Algerian crimson. As long as the eyes recognize the colors and you feel and enjoy it, you know. So this is the kind of situation, and I'm very disappointed, to be honest. 2 American girls came with their own ticket. I didn't have to pay anything. They worked 18 hours a day for 3 months, then worked and went away for my projects and things like that. Some slides, please. I was talking to the art historians in Cambridge, and I said that art historians of the West destroyed the pleasure of looking at art by giving the size, which period, and when it's done, what's the height. By then somebody lost interest in the work. And I feel whether to relish food or wine or sky or painting or music, you need not know anything about it. And the experiencing act is more important, I feel. So a beautiful rhythm, as you see. You see, when you give a catalogue of your painting to somebody, the educated people always read the preface, read the title before looking at the painting. And otherwise, who are interested in painting, they just turn and look at the painting itself. So, next please. Next, there are 64 yoginis. They are roughly about 3 feet tall and beautiful, exquisite, the yoginis. Next please, manifestation of Shakti. You know, as you know, the Kalinga war took place there, and there was a tantric Peter and all that. Next please. Temple architecture, columns. As you all well know, that there were no mortar, and there was negative positive locking of stones. Next please. Whether it is our jewelry or furniture or temple or clothing, people had time, people had interest, people had love and care for it. Next please. This is lacquer terracotta toys. They're about 2 inches, 3 inches, 5 inches tall. And if you enlarge it to 20 feet, they still retain the quality of a sculpture. These are done by women on terracotta. They put lacquer, lac, and then make these little toys. There are only 2 families left. Next please. Indian traditional architecture, the jharoka and the balcony. Next, please. Next. And how the Sahityakar gave the idea to a painter, to a sculptor, and how the renderings and the rhythm, how people worked. Next, please. That's also a lacquer terracotta. Next. This is a tribal home where they're going to fire the earthenware, the terracotta pitchers. Next, please. Next, please. These are shops where outlets for handicrafts. That's another lacquer terracotta. I'm working on lacquer terracotta. This is Ratha, the Rath Yatra in Orissa. They have wood carvings, they have applique work on it, then the deity sits on it, and then the pull. Next, please. The construction of the Ratha. Next, please. Next, please. Next. You see, as you know, Indian aesthetics and philosophy dealt with rhythm, the tala. Whether it's temple, whether it's music, whether it's life, that's talked about the rhythm. So that's what the sculptures and temples were. Now these are folk paintings of different parts of India, which are being sold, done on cloth. Originally used to be done on natural colors, organic colors. Now they use poster colors. Next, please. Different kinds of architecture. Now these are the marriage between architecture and art, the murals, how they were embellished according to the architectural detailing. The paintings were done accordingly, and the architect and the painter worked together, and they did fresco in various parts of the country. And some used raw milk, some used cactus milk, and then so on, as a binder, gur. Every bit of the aristocrats and the royal families' homes were embellished in temples. Next, please. Next. Next, please. Yeah. Oh, that's palm leaf engraving. As you know, our pothi, our manuscript, we have a manuscript mission now in Delhi, and they're collecting manuscripts from all over the country. A lot of manuscripts have gone out of the country. Next, please. Yeah. Illustrated manuscript we have in National Museum, we have in Indira Gandhi National Center for the Arts, and the Orissa State Museum, and many other museums. Then we have clay modelings, we have seasonal, like Durga Puja, Saraswati Puja, Ganesh Puja, etc. So clay modelers make it, and uska visarjan hota hai, they offer it to the river or the water body. Next, please. Next, please. Yeah, next. Mahabali, different architecture of different parts of the country, just for you to see. Next, please. Yeah. The Tanka painting, and different schools of painting have their different methods of painting on cloth. For the Buddhists and others, it's a way of service, and then they stretch the cloth and they use organic colors and different methods how to progress. Next, please. Next, please. Okay. Next, please.
Now it's your work.
हाँ दिखा दो पंखा क्या हुआ Yeah. I have about 6,500 pankha collection from various parts of the country and from, of course, Far East and Southeast Asia, Africa, Egypt, etc. And this random collection, in the course of time, gone into typology and medium and material. क्या हुआ? In our country, mainly the pankhas used to be made from khajur, palm, palm leaf and bamboo. And they are sold, they are made in February, and then by March they sell it all over the country. And people buy it from the heart of the bazaar, and then women embellish them and make it beautiful. But of course, there are other fantastic bena. There's a fragrant root of a grass, and उसपे पानी डाले तो उसका सुगंध होता है, and khas, and then people put silk, satin, frills. Then there are silver handles, ivory handles, lacquer handles. Next, please. This was a show at the Victoria Memorial in Calcutta, where 10,000 people came every day, the common people. And mostly educated people don't visit museums, than scholars. Common people go to Jahangir Art Gallery and they look at paintings like this and they don't speak to each other. They look. Next, please. And different kinds of pankha made from wheat stalk to golden grass. Next, please. Jaldi, jaldi. Thank you. And Rajasthan, Gujarat, Kerala, Bihar, UP has many varieties. And also northwest, as you have Fulkari pankha, lot of khajur pankha from Pakistan, and beautifully woven. Next, please. These are stalk, the wheat stalk. These are bamboo. Next, please. Next. I have also silver handle with pure gold and silver thread, which cost ₹1,00,000, the royal fans. There are also fans which are offered to the deity. Then there are ceremonial fans. Next, please. Jaldi, jaldi. Next. The fans which you hold in your fist. There are some which a revolving fan, and so on. Next, please. In Assam, in Majuli Island, there are shatras. There are monasteries where some people make fans. And they make it for a month. Originally it used to be done with ivory, and now they make it with, cane. Next, please. Then there are painted. These are some very beautiful fans from Rajasthan and Gujarat. This is a pad from Kerala, which a strong man holds and fans 10 people seated. Next, please. Next. Just go on. Thank you. Next. People take a lot of trouble in doing it. बहुत बढ़िया बढ़िया पंखे हैं. This is from Bangladesh, that cloth. These are fan exhibitions which took place in London Fan Museum, Greenwich, the Rydberg Museum, and so on. Next, please. Next. 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 चलते जाओ. Next. Then beads and leather fans of Kutch, and then Buddhist fans, which are. Some of these dandis are so beautifully carved, and and very dainty, very with mahogany wood, and lacquer and silver and ivory. Next, please. चलो. हाँ जी. बस. हाँ बस. Next. वो दिखा दो. Yeah. These are some of my drawings and watercolor and oils. Just look, there is nothing to say. I draw and I do watercolors, I do engravings, I paint in oils. थोड़ा focus कर दो. The old drawings and going to temple or sculpture and draw. Frankly, one lifetime is not good enough to be an artist. You need many lives and a lot of hard work. Next, please. These are done in Bali and elsewhere. This is a portrait sketch of this artist, Vikas Bhattacharya, who died recently. Next. Chalte jao. Thank you. Go on. These are conte drawings in imperial size paper. Go on, please. Thank you. Next. Can you see it from a distance? It's rather small in size. Next page. Just go on. Bas. Jaldi. There's some works which are also with ink and brush. Next, please. Chiliye. Thank you. Next. Any problem? This is ink and brush. My works have no other embellishment, no architecture, no time and space. They're just bare figures. Next, please. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
We know that Dr. Randhawa passionately loved and he promoted the land of Punjab, its people and its culture. And he ruled the cultural soul of Punjab for complete 50 years. No doubt all his admirers, they are committed admirers and they will not let its memory fade in any way. But the successive system of governance is not leaving anything to chance to forget him. So our concern is our younger generation and the young students. My humble suggestion is that this house of committed admirers must recommend and must call for at least some token of recognition. However, no recognition is befitting to his high stature, but at least a heritage chair in the name of Dr. M.S. Randhawa in Punjab University or any other university.
Yes.
Now the artists are going for the money and behind the money. So how could they earn their living by not going behind the money for selling their art?
Of how we survive in whether you're a scientist or artist or a poet or a dancer or a musician. As I said, Brancusi worked in a butcher shop and Eliot worked as a clerk, and all of us have to find ways of earning our, as they say, bread and butter, at least our bread, chawal, roti. And so when we talk of pursuing anything, when as I mentioned about the weaver, do you know that many of our weavers in the country get about 20 rupees for a sari, which they work on 5, 6 days, 8 days? Are you aware of this? Our craftsman, the potter, जो मटका बनाता है वो माटी को रोनता है. He brings the clay from the river bed and then takes a stone out, makes it chikna, बढ़िया, buttery, and then he throws it and makes pots, then he fires it. all this process, he earns about 2 rupees and a matka. So, is an artist or a scientist or a philosopher wanting to be a middle class person or wants to be an artist? And there's no compromise in that. And how we are now, many people, it's not that there were many creative people in the rural and tribal areas. The old saying, the beautiful flowers bloomed and went and withered, nobody knew. But we have to work within our means. You can have a newspaper and do ink painting on it. You can take charcoal and draw on newsprint paper. And many artists all over the world have done. So how we find our path, that's up to you.
I'm not exactly from the art field, but I do love art. And when I see some of the Western paintings, I see landscapes, I see portraits, I see battles, but whenever I go to exhibitions here, I see nothing but the nudes being painted. Is that the trend, or I'm still like, I get disappointed? What do you have to say about it?
You are talking of landscapes and portraits and figures, and you're talking of nudes. There's no relation in that question. Sorry, sir, that let's first understand, when you say nude, what do you mean by nude? Our nose and eyes are nude, and the body, it's bare figure. All our sculptures, all our artists all over the world, from the caveman's period till today, have done bare figures. Suggestion of fabric or jewelry is there, but in all our sculptures and paintings and miniatures and wherever you see, it's because to show the rhythm, the lalitya of the figure there has to be.
Sir, I wanted to ask you, like 5-6 years ago, you were in Shimla and someone asked you what keeps you going. It was a beauty contest in Shimla and you said love keeps you going. So do you still believe in, what do you mean by being in love? And does it
I said this.
Yes, you said being in love keeps you going.
If somebody says, how do you describe art? And tell me one. So it's like that. So when you use the word love, love for nature, love for life, love for colors, love for everything. The affection and the tenderness and the care. Next, please.
I just wanted to qualify for our friend.
Yeah.
He goes to see a landscape.
Yeah.
The landscape is nude. There is nothing there. There are no clothes.
Exactly.
Yeah. And he goes to see the flower.
Yes.
The flower is naked.
Also naked.
It's a nude.
That's right.
I mean, I don't know what perception he has in his mind.
That's right.
And maybe he needs a little bit more
Education.
Education doesn't help.
No education is required.
No education.
Exposure.
Exposure.
Every one of us need exposure to food and drink and painting and music and poetry.